What's going on, folks? Welcome back to the channel with me, Clem Boogie. Week 7, college football. Yeah, it's a lot of interesting games, a lot of interesting matchups. I smell a lot of upsets, a lot of surprises. It seems like there's going to be a lot of games that are going to take some heroic acts, but who knows? The story might maintain the same. But you know how I'm giving it up here on this channel. I'm giving you 4 picks and 1 upset alert. Let's get to it, shall we? First game up, we have Kansas versus Oklahoma. Oklahoma looked dead, uninspired, just not interested, didn't show up, offense or defense, as Texas took full advantage of them not having their leader, Dillon Gabriel, at quarterback, and it just looked very ugly, as you could tell from the score, 49-0. Very big disappointment. But this is a new week, and they're playing against Kansas. Kansas, one of the bigger surprises in the Big 12. They've been playing very good football, surprising a lot of people. First winning record since 2009, I believe. And, you know, they're looking and heading to a bowl game when it's all said and done as the season progresses. But anyway, as it pertains to this game, I'm going to go with Oklahoma to get right back on track, as Dillon Gabriel is scheduled to make it back on the field and lead his troops on the offensive side, as Kansas is missing their signal caller. And yeah, it's going to be ugly. I think Oklahoma, from last week's doing, has a rough and nasty taste in their mouths. So look for them to cover the spread pretty easily, which I believe is at 9. And that's my pick. Oklahoma, 9 points. Covering this. Next game up, we have Tennessee versus Alabama. Nick Saban must be breathing a sigh of relief, as he just skated by last weekend versus Texas A&M as they edged it out against the Aggies. But they're running into a Tennessee team that's not afraid, well improved, well coached. Their offense is in sync. Their defense has some semblance of competency, and they just ran all over the place when they played LSU last week. This is not your typical Tennessee team. They don't do it finesse. They do have a lot of style. They do have a lot of perimeter players that can take it to the house. But then again, it is Nick Saban and that Alabama team and that tradition and that, you know, gall that they always bring anytime they step on the field, whether it's theirs, a neutral field, or even the opposition's field. I'm not taking either side in this game. What I do expect is for Bryce Young to return. As we know, he was out due to the shoulder strain that he had suffered, I believe, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and to lead back his troops. When he's in there, the engine runs that much smoother. Tennessee will not be afraid. They will not be deterred. And let's keep in mind, Nick Saban is predicated on defense for Alabama, but their team is simply not the same. People have to understand, when a lot of these players graduate or move on to their next endeavors, things change. There's an adjustment period that needs to take place. A lot of people need to get acclimated into the positions that they set, and, you know, see how things kind of trend as the season goes on. But without saying a mouthful, I'm going with the over. And the over is set at 67 points. I don't think either of these teams will have a problem putting up points. I don't think it will be a case of lackluster defense. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if we see, you know, a combination of pick sixes or scoop and scores. Everybody will have a chance to get their hand on the ball, and that's what I'm expecting, as I'm going with the over as my pick. Next game up is Oklahoma State versus TCU. What can I say about this game? Both teams are well-oiled machines, offensively, defensively, well-rounded teams, both well-coached, but only one can win. What has been proven thus far? Oklahoma State has played a very intense schedule. They've been winning convincingly in each and every one of their games thus far, you know, presenting a 5-0 record, undefeated. But on the other side, TCU, same, basically a mirror match. they have Max Duggan, who seems to be a dark horse player in the Big 12 and seems to just be simply showing out. He has a multitude of weapons. He's mobile, and he just seems to make those it plays. And with that being said, I'm going with TCU, giving 3.5 points and looking for them to cover the spread. Next game up has USC visiting Utah. Now, what can we say? USC, nice Ferrari, drives fast, flashy, gets a lot of compliments, gets all the looks, the stares, the jeers. And then on the other side, you have Utah, gritty, tough. They just weigh on you. I don't know. It's just a class of two opposite wills that are bound to meet this Saturday. With that being said, we know what Lincoln Riley coach team brings. You know, it brings that flashy offense, run and gun, run and shoot. Anything to get the ball thrown all over the yard. Nice toys, nice perimeter players, offense that gashes, big yards, a lot of scores. They just score the scoreboard just lights up no matter which way you want it. And on the other side, you have Utah, very methodical, but at the same time, they produce enough big plays to where you have to pay attention, or else if you're sleeping, they'll find a way to wake you up. But anyway, with this game, I see it's very peculiar because you have the number, I believe USC is ranked number 6. And for some godforsaken reason, they're not actually given, they're the underdogs in this game. So what does that tell you? That tells you bookmakers are not fearful of the defensive side that USC possesses. You can score on USC. Yes, they've been playing competent football, but it doesn't stand to say that you can't score on them. Utah has some weapons of their own. Like I said, if they're able to produce enough impact plays, they might mess around and win. In fact, that's what bookmakers are thinking might happen, as Utah is the 3.5 point favorite. And with that being said, my pick, I would say, is I'm going with Utah to cover the spread at 3.5. Next game up is Clemson Tigers versus Florida State Seminoles. Dabo Swinney looks very confident in his team. I'm not saying it's a, team that he's had in the past. I don't really think they're national championship worthy, but they are undefeated, 5-0. Dabo still has a young led team. I think at times they have lapses due to competition. They've been able to kind of put a Band-Aid and mask some of those lapses that they've been having. But they're playing a Florida State team, which are pretty relatively young in their own right. They're playing free will, although they lost last week, but it wasn't by much. It goes a part of growing pains. Their coach is on the hot seat, respectively. Florida State used to be a national power, and they're trying to emerge and go back to where they once were. But with all that being said, let's face the facts. Dabo doesn't have a Deshaun Watson anymore. He doesn't have Goldilocks that he had last year, or a couple years back, anymore. Trevor Lawrence, that's who I'm referring to as Goldilocks. But he does have a respectable QB. I don't know his name. I do know his name. I don't want to butcher his last name. So out of respect, I'll call him the QB. He's a dual threat. But yes, he can pass the ball. Might not be as accurate, and it might cost him at times. Florida State does possess a few ball hawk individuals in their backfield on the defensive side, and that could prove to be the difference. Although it's Florida State receiving 3.5 points, I think it's going to be a very tight game. I'm not saying Florida State's going to win, but I do see them putting Clemson in the upset alert. So with that being said, I wouldn't be surprised if Florida State wins. I'm not saying they're going to win, but I wouldn't be surprised if they won. But Clemson does strike me as the team on Saturday to make the most mistakes, and look for Florida State to capitalize on the mistakes. And I'm taking Florida State getting 3.5 points. So now you have 4 picks, 1 upset alert. Let's get some money. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, comment. I'm here to talk with you guys. I'm part of the community. Let's bounce off ideas with one another. After all, teamwork makes the dream work. So until next time, it's me, Clem Boogie.